And a TGIF, everyone. Welcome into the First Call podcast. He's Jeff Siegel. I'm Jeremy Plonk from First Bet and Express Bet. Belated Independence Day wishes. Hopefully, it's a long weekend for everyone out there with Thursday off. Hopefully, you get Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from the man to enjoy some racing this weekend, because we've got a lot of great racing around the country. This Friday, as we record our podcast, a lot of great stakes. Prairie Meadows has 4 stakes races tonight. Gulfstream kicks off the first of 3 sprint stakes this weekend on the Friday card. We've got stakes action on the NYRA circuit closing weekend in New York, if you can bet on it. And of course, if you haven't been able to wager on your ADW for NYRA, we've got an offer for you. Be sure to sign up with Express Bet and First Bet with all new accounts. Use the promo code 250MATCH. That's 250MATCH. And we'll match up to $250 in your deposit. So check that out. Express Bet and First Bet with a $250 deposit match going for new account holders. So, Jeff, there are plenty of great opportunities to play this weekend. You got the Belmont Invitational, Derby and Oaks this weekend, and around the world, right? I mean, a big one with City of Troy going at Sandown on Saturday in the Coral Eclipse.
Worth watching, although his main rival in that race, the main contender, the older horse, he's not going to run. Yeah. So I mean, City of Troy is going to be a very short price, but again, go to school on a horse like this. We'll see him in the States pretty soon.
Sure.
And I'm not sure whether it's going to be all until waiting to the Breeders' Cup, or you never know what's going to happen. But that's going to be good. We've got a lot of these provincial tracks rising with big cards this weekend. In fact, in the handicapping that we're going to be doing today, the 8 races that we've chosen, the first 3 are actually derbies, well, we've got 3 derbies anyway. We got the Indiana Derby, the Iowa Derby, and the Belmont Derby. And then so we're going to be looking at some promising 3-year-olds who are ready to break through, perhaps. The Belmont program at Aqueduct is fantastic. Got a really good race here at Los Al that has Breeders' Cup implications, if you can believe that. And some other good gambling races as well. So let's make some money and enjoy this final weekend prior to Saratoga.
If you are listening on our traditional podcast channels, here are the races that we're going to handicap in order. The Indiana Derby from Horseshoe, Indianapolis, then the Iowa Derby from Prairie Meadows. We'll go to Gulfstream Park for the Smile Sprint on Saturday. Saturday's Belmont at the Big A card. We're going to feature the Belmont Derby Invitational, the John Nehrude for sprinters, and the Belmont Oaks Invitational back on the turf. At Los Alamitos, as Jeff mentioned, the Great Lady M Stakes, and a little Sunday bonus for you, the Del Cap. Delaware Park has the Delaware Handicap coming up on Sunday. So that's for you listening on our audio channels. For those of you who have been looking at the schedule on our videos, be sure to hit the like button, share this out. We want to see your comments as well in the comment section. Help us grow the audience for the It's Official podcast and the First Call podcast here this weekend. So, Jeff, let's talk about the races that we have coming up for Saturday. We'll start off at Horseshoe, Indianapolis, where it's the Indiana Derby, and your top pick in here is one you've been familiar with for some time.
I didn't really want to pick Stronghold, and that's the pick I'll have. He's 2-1 on the morning line, unraced since the Derby, in which he didn't run as well as I thought he would. I mean, he was where I wanted him to be at the quarter full, but there was no follow through. But he did have he's still a pretty good colt, and I love what Phil D'Amato's doing here, trying to get a confidence building win back in his system. So in looking at him and the way he's been training, this was the work just a few days ago. He broke off 5 lengths behind his workmate, and he's going to finish very, very well. 24 flat for the last quarter of a mile on my watch. You can see him on the outside. This tells me that the rest is a little bit of a vacation that's done him well. He's finishing without much pressure here. He's coming home well. Collar his workmate, and he's perking up rather well. And I think after having a couple of months off, he's ready to return against a field that he certainly should be able to beat, assuming that the Derby campaign didn't sap him, which sometimes it does. I like him. The horse that I really wanted to like, and the one that I fear most, is number 8, Dragoon Guard. That's an Arrogate colt who was beat in the neck in his debut at Churchill last September, came back off the laugh and won his next 2 in very stylish manner. You saw him at Keeneland when he came back. I liked that race a lot, Jeremy. And then he comes back with a career top number over a sloppy track. Look, if they let him loose on the lead, and I don't know whether he will be on the lead, but he's a pretty quick colt with a lot of speed. Right. And if they let him run out of there, There's no doubt in my mind that he's capable of dominating from gate to wire. The pace situation could be contested, but maybe not. That was my problem. I couldn't really separate them. Now, Dragoon Guard on the morning line is a better price. This is one of these kind of races where, gun to my head, I might not really have my top pick until they're entering the gate, a little late for that. I'm going to go Stronghold over Dragoon Guard. I think that those are the two that'll get most of the play, but I'm looking for Stronghold to bounce back with his best, which, of course, was good enough to win the Santa Anita Derby earlier this year.
This always looked like the kind of race for him. Phil D'Amato's been willing to travel. There's not a lot for the 3-year-olds on the West Coast. So after that solid effort in the Kentucky Derby and when they didn't come back in the Triple Crown Series, this always looked like the right spot. I think Stronghold's pace versatility helps in this spot. Dragoon Guard, obviously, this will be the first 2-turn attempt for that one. It's only 1.16 miles. The Indiana Derby, a very achievable derby in terms of a 2-turn distance, but he's never been around 2 turns to this point. EJ Wanda Cup to his inside has some other speed in here. So I'm like you. I think Stronghold's pace versatility can help here. The trip that he got in the Santa Anita Derby, 4th, 2 lengths off the lead and grinding down the field, that would be a winning trip in here, I think. I'm with him as well. Just a note in here, Sir Grayland is going to scratch out of the Indiana Derby. So that's one less to worry about as you handicap race number 12 on Saturday from Horseshoe Indianapolis. 8 stakes races in all on that Horseshoe Indy card, including some stakes handicapping from Scott Shapiro on our website. So be sure to check out Scott's top plays for the Indianapolis card on Saturday, Indiana Derby Day in Shelbyville. Let's go to Prairie Meadows for the second of 2 big days in a row at Prairie Meadows. Friday night's card's got 4 stakes races, 4 more on Saturday. Saturday is the big one, though, the traditional 4th of July weekend at Prairie Meadows. It doesn't get any bigger for those in Iowa than this. The Cornhusker, the Iowa Oaks, and the Iowa Derby all on the card. The Prairie Meadows Iowa Derby race number 8 is 1.16 miles, same distance as the Indiana Derby. Only goes for $250,000, so you expect this to be a little bit lighter of a field. Nonetheless, we got Just a Touch in here, Jeff, who a lot of folks thought was the horse to beat in the Kentucky Derby. There were a lot of people excited about taking a shot at him on Derby Day. He ran 20th that day. Does he get back on the beam, or are we looking for somebody else other than Just a Touch?
I am. I mean, Just a Touch deserves to be favored based on the company he has kept. I was very high on him after his maiden win, and he didn't quite follow through after that for me, even though he was obviously racing against tougher horses. Running second in the Gotham looked pretty good at the time. I'm not sure that the colt that beat him is all that much. I mean, he's good, right, deterministic, but I don't think he's anything great. I think maybe in fact, I'm sure that his runner-up to Sierra Leone in the Bluegrass flattered him. Got a nice trip that day. I'm instead going to try a price here.
Good.
There's a lot of X factors in here that could be better than shown. Maybe they're not, but I don't mind betting a horse to do something that he's never done if I'm getting 12, 15 to 1. I'll gamble on that. I don't want him at 7 to 5. Henro is a horse, number 3 on your program, who's trying 2 turns for the first time. And he looks like a horse that if he's ever going to route, it'll be his first opportunity. He's got a series of good, solid sprints. He's got rising speed figures. His numbers have gone from 71 to 83 to 87 to 92. So every time he runs, he gets better and better. He's got a pedigree that should allow him to get a middle distance by collecting that out of Mirabai Street Cry. And his last race, he finished second in, but I really liked it. He stayed on very, very nicely. Out of the Conqueror is a proven solid sprinter who's not that far removed from these anyway. And I think that Enro is going to produce another forward movement from the 3-hole post. I think he'll get a great trip. I think at 12 to 1 in the morning line with numbers that are every bit as good as anything in the race, with the possible exception of Just a Touch, who may not be as good as his numbers look. I think Enro's a gamble to me at 12 to 1.
And you want a horse close to the pace at Prairie Meadows. You never want to be coming from the clouds. So that sprint to route form, expect him to be pretty forwardly placed with the 3-hole draw in there. No speed by Mugatu down on the rails. So Kitty Hawk, who's cross-entered in Indiana. Henro could be some inside pace in here where he's not going to be very far off the lead. He did come from off the pace in the slop in his allowance win 2 starts back at Oaklawn Park. But again, that was just going 6 furlongs. Let's take a look at that win. Matt Ditterman with the call.
Storms Home has dropped out of it. The other is still well out of it, too. Top of the lane here. Congrats on 50 with Strato on the outside, running a big one. And Henro is grinding away. Henro grandstand side, collaring those early leaders and kicking on. Plausible Denial coming like a rocket down the outside. Henro got the jump. Henro sprinting clear, and he's going to do it. Henro, 2 wins for Rafael Bejarano and Chris Hartman.
He's run well in the 2 starts with Bejarano aboard. That was the first time that he came back in that good race at Churchill. You mentioned the horse who beat him out of the Conqueror, really nice. Doncho, who ran 3rd in that race, is a really nice one for Michelle Lovell as well. So that was a good race. It was just a no condition allowance race, but that played a lot like a sprint stakes race around the country amongst these 3-year-olds. So good race that he's coming out of there. Jeff's top pick, Henro, in the Iowa Derby, race number 8 on Saturday night at Prairie Meadows. Let's shift our attention now southward to Gulfstream Park on Saturday, where it's the Smile Sprint. They used to run the Summit of Speed at Gulfstream Park and Calder formerly before that, and all the stakes races and the sprinters would be on the same card. They've kind of spread it out over 4th of July weekend. There's the carryback today, the Smile Sprint on Saturday, a 3rd stakes race on Sunday. You could get up to $10 back on our money back special with First Bet and Express Bet in all 3 of those Gulfstream Park Sprint stakes this weekend, including the Smile. That means if you make a win bet in those 3 stakes races, up to $10 refunded back into your account if your win bet finishes 2nd or 3rd. Jeff's going to give you the winner, though, so you don't need that insurance. So let's go to the Smile Sprint, race number 9 on Saturday. Named for the 1986 Breeders' Cup Sprint winner, Scotty Schulhofer trained that one. Went back and looked at the record of Smile this morning. What a start to his career at Calder. He went 7 for 7 as a 2-year-old in his first 7 starts. And, of course, 86 was his big year. This is a Florida bred who did his big damage at Calder. Only raced once at Gulfstream Park, but the stakes named for him, of course, the Smile Sprint, part of that Summit of Speed, where Calder originated this race back in the day. So you're talking a sprint race at Calder over the years. Smile was a good one to name one after. Who do you like in this race for the older horses?
I have a couple of angles that I like on number 6, Run Classic, and that is, even though he went overseas, he's been freshened, which I think is going to suit him well. He's run well, proven to be very, very good off the bench, so there's no doubt in my mind that he will fire fresh. He's coming back. He's only had 1 prior start at Gulfstream Park. It was a stakes race, Gulfstream Park Sprint Championship, at this distance on this track that produced a career top number. So I've read quotes from the trainer. It says he's training great, which is, you can believe it if you want to. It's better than saying, I don't think he's ready. Right. Jose D'Angelo is talking like he's got him spot on. So I think that Run Classic is going to run well. He's got a good style where he can lay close to the pace, but if he's in the mid-pack, that's okay, because he does do his best running from the quarter pole home. And at this distance, if he wants to settle it behind the leaders, that's fine, and punch it in. And if he were to run back to his last race in the States, not the Dubai race, but his last race in the States, which was back in February, on this track at this distance, I think Run Classic gets back on winning track, and I think he'll be tough to beat.
Let's go back and take a look at that race from February. It was the Gulfstream Park Sprint.
There's a 1/4 mile left to go, and now it's Dean Delivers who's tightened up as the Candyman looms large. Candyman Rocket is up to challenge for control toward the inside, long-range Toddy. Down the center, Run Classic with a good-looking kick. Here comes Castellano on Run Classic, charging hard, and Run Classic is swept by them all. Run Classic with a display of big-time late speed. He wins the Gulfstream Park Sprint by 3 in the end.
You know, Jeff, he's not the only one coming back from a race overseas, coming out of that same race, the Dubai Golden Shaheen, the Sibelius, a horse who has had some success in the States, had some success overseas, obviously 2 for 2 at Gulfstream. But this horse did not, Sibelius last year, did not come back well from the Dubai trip after winning the Golden Shaheen, took several starts to kind of get back into form. This is one that I've got to see in a form cycle. If this repeats, this is a short price horse that I'd be willing to take a stand against. We know Sibelius is obviously very talented, but at age 6 now, coming off that same, disappointing return last summer, I'd make him beat me at a short price.
I would too. And he is 2 for 2 at Gulfstream Park, which is a major positive. He wins races 9 for 25. But for the reasons you mentioned, I'm much more confident, regardless of who do you think is better of the two. But I'm much more confident that Run Classic is going to fire his best shot as opposed to Sibelius for the reasons you mentioned. So I think those are the two that outclassed the field. Octane, if he would have run back to his last race, would be tough. But now he's trying to do it at 6 furlongs. He's more of a middle distance horse. I'm not sure if this is too sharp for him or not. But I think of the two that should get most of the play, I trust Run Classic more than the other one, than Sibelius, for the reasons that you pointed out. So that's where I'm going, and maybe I'll get a decent price in trying.
For more on the Smile Sprint and that Saturday card at Gulfstream, be sure to check back this weekend for Eddie Olczyk's hat trick. He'll have a video this weekend for his top 3 plays on Saturday at Gulfstream, including the Smile Sprint. So check for that on social media channels and also at news.first.com and at expressbet.com in our blog section. All right, so let's go from Gulfstream Park to Belmont at the Big A. Saturday's card, the big one has 4 stakes races. We use big to talk about the purses and the prestige of these races and the grades, but not the field sizes. Very short fields on Saturday at Belmont at the Big A for these major stakes races, including the Dwyer, which drew just 4 runners and got pushed up to race number 2 on the card. We're not going to handicap the 4-horse Dwyer, but we don't have big fields to talk about in the other stakes races as well, Jeff. This might be a situation that you're too darn close to Saratoga. A lot of people are waiting for Saratoga. You kind of get some of that, like, where people are waiting for Del Mar, and you get to the end of the Santa Anita meet or the meet at Los Alamitos, where people say, let's just take a pass and wait for the big boutique meet. These fields did not come up as deep and as strong as you'd like, but there's some quality at the top of them. And we start that with the Belmont Invitational Derby, where I know you like Legend of Time in there.
I do, but I can't for the life of me understand why more European trainers take advantage of this. Their horses are fit. These fields are small, and
$750K.
$750,000 would be like running in the 2,000 guineas or something. I don't know if this is there, but it's pretty tough, and you have to run against 25 when you do that. But Charlie Appleby says, "You don't want to come? It's okay. You stay back there. I'll come. I'll represent." And he's got Legend of Time, who I watched his races in Dubai. I thought he was the real deal. And I loved him in the American Turf at Churchill, and he just got rank and he got mad and he just was unsettled and he pulled and he did everything wrong, which is what he did not do overseas when I watched his film over there. But then in his last race in the Pennine Ridge, I thought he ran really well. Now, he did save ground. He got a great trip. He had inside draw that day. He's going to get the same kind of trip here from the rail, assuming he breaks. And I thought he lacked a clear path there in the upper stretch, lost a little bit of momentum, but he quickened. He actually displayed a turn of foot there that the others didn't have. And I think this race is going to be run just like that, where they're going to go slow. And then from the top of the stretch to the wire, I think the colt with the best turn of foot, which I believe is Legend of Time, is going to prevail. Now, what about Endlessly? Back on grass for the first time since November of last year. He's a good colt. I don't think he's got the natural turn of foot, the acceleration that Legend of Time does. And if this race is going to be a very slowly run race early, which I believe it will be, and he's going to have to do some work from the top of the stretch to the wire to catch colts who can turn it on as well as he can. So I'm going to. It's going to be a tactical race. You know how me, William Buick to me is the Curland of jockeys as far as I'm concerned.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I don't think there's anybody better in the world from what I could see. So Legend of Time with William Buick, who obviously got great run out of him in Dubai, joins the party here. And I think Legend of Time will outkick him and win again.
I've been driving Buicks for about a decade, so I can attest to the smooth rides. And William Buick is absolutely one of the world's best. Legend of Time got there by a head last out in the Pennine Ridge over White Palomino and Royal Majesty. They're the 1, 2, 3 right back in this field on Saturday in the Belmont Invitational Derby. Let's go back and look at their 1, 2, 3 finish last time in the Pennine Ridge.
There is Royal Majesty. Royal Majesty now tips off the rail, nowhere to go right now. Legend of Time is going to save ground towards the inside. Triple Espresso still very tightly bunched, and White Palomino is still there. Cable ready. Will Legend of Time get out? And here's Legend of Time trying to muscle on through. White Palomino still holding that spot. Will Legend of Time find the room in time? Still chasing his Cable ready, and also Royal Majesty. There's Legend of Time, who's now bursting late. Legend of Time gets up and wins the Pennine Ridge just over White Palomino. Then came Royal Majesty and Cable ready in 1 minute 47 and 3. There is Royal Majesty. Royal Majesty.
So at once we don't need to see it again. Legend of Time got there by head. Maybe we'll see a replay of that race again, though, back in the Belmont Invitational Derby. Trickery's an interesting horse in here. Won the American Turf at 47-1 in a big upset. Then came back and was bet to favoritism in the Penn Mile. That race hasn't come back strong. Horses who came out of that race in the past 2 weekends to run haven't come back and fired the same kind of race that they did, including the winner First World War, out of that Penn Mile race. So I'd be against Trickery trying to beat Legend of Time for a second straight time. Beat him in the American Turf, but I think this time Legend of Time would be the stronger of those two. We will see what Endlessly has to offer in here. I think 6-5 on the morning line's awfully short on Endlessly, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's the other way around, where it's 6-5 on Legend of Time in here, Jeff. I think he's going to get bet to favoritism.
I do too. Right or wrong, I think that's the case. Again, because this race is going to be reduced to a quarter of a mile sprint. Mm-hmm. And Endlessly, I know him out in California. I like him. He's a quality colt, but he's much more of a grinder. And if they run down the last race, they ran the last 8th and 11-3, and they're going to go slower, I think, in this race. This race is going to be a sprint from home, and I think Endlessly might be, as they say in Europe, might be caught for speed in the final furlong. I don't know what they mean that, but that's what they meant.
All right, let's move to the 8th race. Next stakes on the card at Belmont at the Big A on Saturday. 7 furlong sprint here. The Grade 2 John Nehrude, of course, named for the legendary owner, trainer, breeder, jockey agent for Ted Atkinson way back in the day. Hall of Fame jockey. Of course, most known for Dr. Fager. John Nehrude lived to be 102 years old, Jeff, before he passed away in 2015. A life well lived for sure. Of the John Nehrude Stakes named after him. Drew just a field of 5. It might end up with 4. Coastal Mission is cross-entered in a stakes Sunday at Delaware Park, where he's probably going to fit a little bit better. So another short field expected in this one. How are you looking at race number 8?
I mean, there's so much to like about Mulligan. I don't know what price he's going to be. I mean, you're not going to get a price with any of these because it's such a small field. But he's got rising speed figures, back-to-back 98 buyer numbers, which are good enough to win. Lovely outside draw. Capable of winning on the lead or from a stalking position in a race that figures to have a moderate early pace. And I'm being maybe kind by calling it moderate.
Right.
And a 4-year-old lightly raced colt by Valance, first or second, 6 out of 7 times. He's just a really, really nice, developing, maturing, improving colt who actually has a pedigree that should allow him to go a mile. And I think eventually they'll let him have that opportunity. But why not keep winning these kinds of races when they're hanging on $200,000 in a Grade 2? So even though he hasn't won yet a stakes, his numbers are so far superior now than they have been. He is developing, and visually he's been very, very impressive. I think Mulligan, and I don't know what price he's going to be, but I really would be rather surprised and disappointed if he didn't win yet again.
And I failed to mention 90% Maddie's also cross-entered in that same race Sunday at Delaware's Coastal Mission. So, yeah. Hopefully, at least one of those two stays in this race for the sake of competitive balance. Ever So Mischievous might have a little pace, but has never made the lead. More of a presser in there. Mulligan should just absolutely control this. And with 7 furlongs, the long run to the turn, this is a beautiful setup. I mean, that's everything you can ask for, stepping up into a graded stakes for the first time. Prevalence in here is one of the more up and down runners we've seen over the years. When he's on, he's really on. When he's not, he can be pretty dull and poor, in fact, when he doesn't fire. Hard horse to trust, but you get Irad Ortiz back aboard. His 2 starts with Ortiz, the second place finish in the Maryland Sprint, where Super Chow got away from him that day, but he did win at Keeneland in impressive fashion with Irad 2 starts back. I just don't trust Prevalence enough. I'm with you in here. I think it's Mulligan should be clearly the horse to beat with a great trip there, outside speed going 7/8 of a mile. To the 9th we go, Belmont at the Big A on Sunday. We will get a bigger field size to deal with in this one. It is the Grade 1 Belmont Oaks Invitational. Field of 9, good betting race in here. Nobody cross-entered, and we've got that international influence that you've been asking for, Jeff. You got Fun with Flags coming in from France. You got Secret Satire coming in from England. And then Cinderella's Dream also coming in from Great Britain. So a good international cast for this one.
This is a legitimate Grade 1 race. I mean, legitimate. There's some outstanding runners in here. I had watched all of Cinderella's Dreams races prior to her arrival here. If you look at her form, you'll notice that she was undefeated going into the Guineas, and she hadn't really beaten that great a group. But prior to that, she got tested, and even though she finished 7th in that race, she was only beaten 4 lengths. Superior competition in that race. By all rights, this is the kind of race that Charlie Appleby probably, when he decided to come here, thought, well, I can win a race like this with a filly like this. Yeah. And I don't think that was, I think that was a fairly accurate assessment of Charlie's until such time as he opens the form up and see that She Feels Pretty's in this race. And She Feels Pretty, I didn't do this until part of this race. I had watched the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies Turf last year a number of times, but I never really realized how well She Feels Pretty ran in that race. She should be all right. She should be undefeated going into this race. In that race, 2 races back, the race that Hard to Justify won and Porta Fortuna was second, and She Feels Pretty had a very outside post that day. 9-pole where she was 4 to 5 wide without any cover at every step of the way, put away all the speed, hit the front close home, got nailed right on the money. I mean, she deserves so much better. They put her away after that. They bring her back in a confidence building win at Pimlico. Just absolutely toys with the field without even taking a deep breath. Earned a career top number in the process. And since then, the filly who split her in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies Turf, Porta Fortuna, all she did was come back and run so well, not once but twice in the Guineas, and then she was second that day, and then she comes with the Royal Ascot and wins the coronation and just gallops, So I mean, so there's nothing for She Feels Pretty to be to prove other than that really she should be undefeated, and she's got maybe a little bit more tactical speed than Cinderella's Dream does. If Cinderella's Dream comes over here and beats She Feels Pretty, she will have earned every bit of that Grade 1 $500,000 purse, because She Feels Pretty is a superior grass 3-year-old filly, one that I predict will be able to act with the older fillies and mares in her division in the fall and be a major player in the Breeders' Cup, assuming that she can go 1.25 miles, which she'll have to do on Breeders' Cup Day, or I think it's a mile and 1/8. I can't remember what they did. At Delaware, I'm not really sure how far they have to run yet. But She Feels Pretty. The bottom line is this: fantastic filly.
And she was on her game at Pimlico, just like you said, just kind of let out a little bit at the end and went on with it. Everything Cherie DeVoe won with at Pimlico came back and ran well at Churchill a week or so ago on the Stephen Foster weekend. So I would expect she holds her form from this race that she won last time out. Let's go back to the Hilltop Stakes at Pimlico.
Now they begin to bunch up just a little bit in behind horses. Is Royal Winter just shuffle back a little bit there. In the meantime, She Feels Pretty is out in the clear. Around the turn, is now over near the inside, now in between horses as they reach to the top of the stretch, and she's got a clear seam to run through. She Feels Pretty at the 3/16 pole. She Feels Pretty. She Feels Pretty is asked to kick for the final furlong, and big kick she gives. She Feels Pretty in front from Just Better, opening up 4. Waves of Mischief into third. She Feels Pretty. She's pretty good in the Hilltop Stakes under John Velasquez.
Johnny V back aboard, and if she does get to the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Turf at Del Mar, 1 3/8 would await her in that one, Jeff. So they go a little longer at Del Mar than the 1.25 some years. In the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Turf. Okay,
Jeremy,
so Belmont.
One thing I want to point out was in watching that video, I don't think, I could be wrong, but I don't think that last race knocked her out.
No, she looked like she has plenty left going for her. Look, this is a really good field, though. I mean, you got the winners of the Regret, the Edgewood, her win at Pimlico and the Hilltop, the international runners. Pretty much everybody you would want in the 3-year-old filly turf division is here, and that's a great race. So we made a little, scoffing at the field sizes of the other 3 stakes on the card. Every bit a legitimate Grade 1 headliner in July is the Fasig-Tipton Belmont Oaks Invitational, race number 9, Saturday, Belmont at the Big. game. Okay, so let's switch gears now and go out to Los Alamitos on Saturday, where it's the Great Lady M Stakes feature race there, grade 2, 6.5 furlongs. This is in the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint Division. If you don't know who Great Lady M is, she was a decent mare. She won a couple stakes races for D. Wayne Lucas back in the day, 1979, 1980. She was a pretty good Lucas back when Lucas was just starting to get good. But she's more famous as a broodmare because her first daughter was none other than Lady Secret, foaled in Oklahoma and becoming the 1986 Horse of the Year. So the Great Lady M Stakes, named for the dam of Lady Secret. That's why she's got a race in her name. Not for what she did on the track, though. She did win a couple minor stakes races sprinting. So you've got her in the right spot, sprinting here, the Great Lady M.
She was a very, very high-class gray mare, and I think there's similarities between her, although obviously she's not as well accomplished quite yet, with Sweet Azteca, gray filly, who is a filly who can sprint or route. She's only had the 4 starts. She's already earned a triple-digit buyer. She did that when she absolutely shrugged off Adair Manor like it was water off her back. And Adair Manor could very well be, at this time, the best older mare in the country. Sweet Azteca handled her with ease, beat her to the punch, which is hard to do at the clubhouse turn, switched off, opened up. When Adair Manor tried to take her at the top of the stretch and then couldn't, and then Sweet Azteca rolled all the way to wire. But Michael McCarthy, who had her, said, okay, that's great. I'm glad she won a grade 1 in a mile, but I'm not really sure that's her future down the road. Yeah. She can win going around the ground, but she's better sprinting. So we decided to back off. There were no major races for her between that last one and what's going to happen in the fall, in summer and fall. Got her cranked up. She's been training very, very well. She's backing her up to 6.5. What she did 2 races back, she won by 12. I think 6.5 will fit nicely. And then in the fall, she can go after the biggies, perhaps at Saratoga, maybe stay home and just point for the Rancho Bernardo, races like that, and then go to the Breeders' Cup doing that. I can't imagine 7/8 could be a better distance for her than that. So I'm very interested to see how she comes back off this relatively brief layoff. But boy, is she training like she's fit and ready. This was a 58-1, believe it or not. It looks like it's like a 101 and change. She went off quickly. I think the jock realized that he probably went off too fast. So he said, I'm not going to ask her down the stretch. Just, let her keep on a little bit here and finish in hand. 58-1. I think she still has all of her speed, Jeremy.
Yeah, she's going to be just tough to beat in this particular spot. McCarthy's got the second choice in the morning line, 3 Witches. Pratt rode both of these last time. Pratt, of course, on the East Coast to ride, but Juan Hernandez picks up the call on Sweet Azteca. So that's a tell there that, if he's only going to run one of the two, you're not going to name Juan Hernandez on a grade 2 and then come out of the race. So you would expect Sweet Azteca. Maybe 3 Witches comes out of the race. She did run on Derby Day in the Derby City Distaff, but she won the grade 2 Santa Monica earlier in the year. So she's a high quality filly as well. Michael McCarthy's got him surrounded for sure in the Great Lady M Stakes. That's race number 9. Saturday at Los Alamitos. We stay with the race number 9 theme, but we turn the page to Sunday and we switch gears to Delaware Park, where it's the Del Cap coming up on Sunday. Main event in Stanton, Delaware, a track I've been to a few times over the years. In fact, one of my favorite scores of all time, I'll tell the story, came in the Delaware Handicap 2003, Jeff. This is a race we were doing for ESPN. I was doing the stats and research and spotting for the live shows. And when there's a race going on that we're working, I try not to bet too many things during the day. I try to limit my bets so that I can follow what the heck's going on and stay loose. That year's Delaware Handicap had Take Charge Lady in there, Summer Colony, Wild Spirit for Bobby Frankel. And I was absolutely convinced Wild Spirit would win. And there was no doubt in my mind that Take Charge Lady was going to run second in there. So I liked a local horse from Maryland named Shiny Sheet for trainer Charlie Hadry. And I just said, this is a cold trifecta. It was only an 8-horse field. I usually don't like to bet tries in shorter fields, but again, we're working. So I just played $100 cold trifecta with those 3 horses. And I thought this thing will probably pay like $24 if it comes in. Well, they bet Summer Colony down. She ended up running off the track. The favorite wins 4-5. Take Charge Lady runs second. They let Shiny Sheet go 62-1. The try ended up paying $103 for $1. So I walked out of there with $10K while I was working. And I was absolutely stunned at the return. One of those, you always look at a tote board and you say, boy, I didn't get what I deserved. And how many times have we said that over the course of your betting career? That race, 21 years ago now, I got more than I deserved, and I never forgot it. And back in that day, I mean, that's a nice score any day of the year when you're handicapping. But back in that time in 2003, that was like a summer maker for me.
Well, rumor has it, although I don't quite believe it, that after you hit that try as a spotter, you still had some duties left before the end of the telecast, and you said, "Do it yourself. I'm going to go cash."
Well, we were off the air at that point, I'm sure, by the time we got the results in. But yeah, those were some fun times whenever you have a nice score like that and you're working on the air. You try, like I'm sitting like right next to the talent when it happens. So you just kind of try to, bite your lip and not exclaim and, make any loud shouts at that point. But I knew I had it, but I thought, like I said, it paid 4 or 5 times what I thought it was going to pay. So sometimes it works out for you. Will we have that kind of payout in this year's Delaware Handicap? We'll find out. Mile and 3/16. The Del Cap used to be 1.25 miles. Last year, they shortened it to 1 mile and 3/16. I guess we're just getting soft in the world. We can't ask anybody to go 1.25 miles in handicap ranks these days. We do have handicap conditions with this race. Still, of course, wet paint, the 123-pound high weight in here, giving as many as 9 pounds away to the competition. Brad Cox will try to win the Del Cap for the second straight year. He won it last year with Idiomatic, who was the champion, in the Distaff division last year and won the Breeders' Cup. So Idiomatic is going to bypass her title defense in this race and go for the Molly Pitcher coming up in a couple weeks at Monmouth in New Jersey. So Brad Cox comes in with Plan B in here, wet paint. She's the 3-2 morning line favorite. We talked about Flavian Pratt being out of town, not riding those horses in the Great Lady M at Los Al, but he is on the East Coast, and on Sunday he's going to be riding at Delaware Park.
I hope he got a contract to pick up back the mount from Sweet Azteca down the road. He had to give up something. It can't be in 2 coasts on one day. And right. He had some live mounts for sure. He was like red hot yesterday, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. But he's got some live ones here. So that's why he is staying back east, although not riding in the Saturday Delaware Park. But he's got a live mount here for sure. And I think with wet paint, it's the favorite. Although she may be a suspect and vulnerable favorite, but I understand why she would be well played. But I went with a little bit of a better price, and I think you did too, Jeremy, with Morning Match. It's coming out of a Morning Match, I should say. It's coming out of a series of sprints. She should be sharp, stretching out again. She certainly can route. She's got numbers that would fit. She did not run well in this race last year. She was just, there are no idiomatics in this field, let's put it that way. Right. But I think she, her sprints were decent. The numbers are solid. She's got back numbers in the 90s that she can go back to. She's never won at Delaware, but she's hit the board in all 3 of her prior starts. She should be reasonably placed. She doesn't have any great magic, blistering late kick. She's more of a grinder. But if they'll put her in the race early in a race that figures to have modest fractions, she might be where she needs to be effective early on. So I'm going to try Morning Match in a race in which none of these have any kind of edge, I don't think, that over anybody else, quite frankly. I looked at Honor Beat Lady because she comes out of better races. Maybe she'll run better. I don't know. I don't have a great conviction, but I know it's your race of the week, so maybe you can be a little bit more articulate with pushing Morning Match than I have been.
Well, I like it for a lot of the same reasons you're talking about. She came off the layoff, the 2 sprints in a route. I know that's a handicapping angle that you like. And I think trainer Butch Reed's taken this is our circled race of the year. He skipped the prep in this race where last year they ran a sprint, then they ran the Obia Stakes at 1 mile and 1/16, the local prep. Here he did the 2 sprints and went out of the Bed of Roses last time out when he faced Exceed and, some other quality type fillies in there. So I think she's handled the competition. She's coming out of a good race, but the 2 sprints to a route I really like. I like the position she's going to get in this race. Malibu Beauty, the sprinter on the rail, I think is going to set decent fractions, but somebody who gets first run and isn't so far off of it, I think going back to a route race for her, she's not going to be that far off of it. In last year's Delaware Handicap, I think she got too far back under Paco. Michael Sanchez is a good rider, rides a high percentage for Butch Reed. I think this is a good combination working together, and I think they're going to keep her closer to the pace coming off those 2 sprints. I don't think the edge hasn't come off the fastball by running in that route race like it did last year. So I like her in this spot. I think she's going to run a good one. She's had good races at Delaware over the years. She placed in the Delaware Oaks a couple years ago. Last year, 3rd in the Del Cap. And again, there are no horses like Idiomatic in this particular spot. Wet paint, to me, I just don't trust her. She just, she's run some good races, and then other times she just doesn't fire. Delaware is a tricky track. Horses don't always like it. It's on the slower side, and a mile and a quarter, given weight on a track, or a mile and 3/16 now, and giving weight on a track that you're not sure she's going to be familiar with. I think she's an underlay in this particular spot. I'll try to beat her. Use her maybe in the exacta on some backup plays, but Morning Match on top for sure. And then Honor D Ladies, the other one in there that I like coming out of the race in the Ladies Secret last time out. She also hasn't run over the track here at Delaware, so we'll see how she fares. I'll give the home court edge to Morning Match, the 5-horse in the Delaware Handicap race.
One thing to note, though, and I don't know what the weather is like back there, but Wet Paint is 3 for 3 lifetime over off track. So
yeah, if you get a wet track, yeah.
I don't know whether it's going to be raining there or not, but who knows? But you got to handicap this race on a Friday, so we'll hope that the conditions are normal.
Sure. And then we've got 4 stakes races on that Sunday card. Warlike Goddess running in the Robert Dick Memorial Stakes right before the Delaware Handicap. So you've got some star power there with Warlike Goddess running on the grass in the race before the Del Cap. Also got a promo for you. You got a chance to get $20 back if you bet $100 on the card Saturday at Delaware Park for Oaks Day, and $100 on the card Sunday for Del Cap Day. Bet $100 each day and you'll get $20 back into your account. So that's like a 10% rebate. Play the $200 over 2 days and get $20 back when you bet with First Bet and Express Bet. Always be sure to opt into all of the promos. And as we mentioned earlier in the podcast, if you're a new account holder, no better time to sign up for a new account. If you've been thinking about it with Express Bet or First Bet, maybe your ADW has you locked out on playing NYRA races right now. Use the promo code 250MATCH. And Express Bet and First Bet will match up to $250 in your deposit. So a great way to get started and to open a new account. Jeff, a lot of great racing. We got the Brooklyn Handicap today on the NYRA circuit. Next is running in the marathon division there. I know you're a big fan of that runner. Big night tonight at Prairie Meadows with 4 stakes races. If you want some handicapping help on tonight's 4-pack at Prairie Meadows, Frank Caruli's got an all-stakes pick 4 ticket for you in our blog section. His Fridays with Frank series. Frank goes all over the country every Friday and tries to give you his best plays. So he's got that set up for Prairie Meadows tonight. Big stakes card there. A lot going on, Jeff. Fun weekend. This feels like your new home, if I can say, because I know your Bruins are heading to the Big Ten. And so we've got the Iowa Derby. We've got the Indiana Derby. The Midwest is really in flux. So, I mean, as a Bruin fan, I think you need to start getting acclimated to Iowa and Indiana.
Well, they already ran the Jersey Derby. I know I'll go to Rutgers this year.
You're going to go to Rutgers,
so I'll miss that one. But you're right. I'm going to be making some road trips. I haven't been to many Big Ten stadiums, and when I go on the road, I love to visit the campuses and all the places that I couldn't get into. Let's put it that way. But anyway, good racing, and of course they draw. I believe today they draw for opening day at Saratoga, so I'm looking forward to that as well. And they got the 2-year-old race is it the Schuylerville? I think it is. But anyway, we'll be doing that, and then we'll have some best plays this weekend on the website, and then of course when Saratoga starts, we'll be looking deeper into that, and then of course Del Mar after that.
You've got some news about Del Mar. Do you want to tell the fans? You've got a new gig coming up.
Yes, they hired me to be the morning line maker, and I only took the job to make sure that it didn't conflict with any of my Bruin games, because that's a non-starter, by the way. Or I guess this day and age you can do it from around the world if you got a computer. So it's going to be fun, challenging though. I mean, I know you've done this in the past. You'll be getting some of my phone calls, especially when Breeders' Cup races start to come around, because I don't want to be made look stupid. I can do that pretty much on my own, but I need some backup here and some. What are you thinking when it comes to a price like that? So I've done it for newspapers, but newspaper morning lines don't have to balance. This one does, and I've been practicing. I know the horses. I can tell you that. Now we'll see if I can avoid getting burned with all this late money that comes in. Well, you might be patting yourself on the back with a minute to post, and then you look like a moron 3 minutes later. So anyway, it's fun. It's great to have a purpose to go out. Now I can go to Del Mar and not have to apologize for it. I work there. So
there you go.
And but also keeping very, very close tabs of what's going on around the country, and of course, certainly at Saratoga.
With John White retiring, he was the morning line maker at Del Mar and Santa Anita, passing the baton to Jeff. It is in very good hands, so fans, check that out when we get to Del Mar coming up in a couple of weeks. We'll be back with you on Tuesday when Jeff and I go for the It's Official podcast. We'll recap 5 hot topics from this weekend, and we've got a ton to get after and talk about, including City of Troy back on Saturday morning stateside. He'll be running in the Eclipse Stakes at Sandown, so be sure to check that one out with Express Bet and First Bet. You can watch and wager on all those international races with us each and every day. On behalf of everybody with First, my partner Jeff Siegel, I'm Jeremy Plonk. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you Tuesday.